Hi, this is Kerry Artak with Wicked Stocks, bringing you your daily Apple report for Friday, April 5th, 2024. Let's take a look at the charts. Start with this chart here. We are very close once again inside the 1% zone, or very close to it. The 1% zone is 1% above 167.19. That would be about 168.86 or so, if I'm doing the math correct. And yes, we slipped into that area. 168.82 was Thursday's low. So we are essentially testing this long-term support. I'm not saying that you should necessarily buy the 168 handle, but 167.19 is preceded by that 1% margin. It can absorb selling 167.19 through the second quarter into later year perhaps. From here we can round back up yet again over the next 3 to 5 months, guessing, but I think that's realistic, into the low 200 area. Over the next 3 to 5 weeks, 1 to 2 months, something in that range, 182.53 to 178.50. 178.50 is a new horizontal channel top based on this week's low. 182.53 is a descending channel top that we could actually see on the weekly chart at 183.40, dropping at a pretty aggressive pace. This is the area that above 160.17 I'm anticipating over the next 1 to 2 months. Now, that would be probably accelerated if we can get up and underway by closing today, for instance, above 172.14. This is a level that can contain session strength and, maybe into later week. We do need to close above 172.14 to set off. This could be 3 to 5 days with high volatility. This could take the better part of 2 weeks, but 178.50 would be the next near-term objective. Call it a 1 to 2 week target if we close today above 172.14. If we close above 172.14, that is another way of saying I think we've got a good April low, because over the next 2 weeks or so we should push into the upper 170s. And over the next 2 weeks, this area even narrows even more into kind of a range of resistance that begins at 178.50 and ends at 182.53. It all comes together like the third week of April. So closing above 172.14, this area would be anticipated and able to contain buying through May, and we could fall away again from here. We could trade inside, and I'll take you back to the weekly chart. We could trade inside the 167.19 floor of support to 183.40 ceiling of resistance, dropping pretty aggressively all the way through May activity before the market tips its hand in one direction or another. And I'm still going to say presumably that would be above 183.40, given the significant long-term support that we find at 167.19. And if we were to close above 183.40 over the coming weeks, once again it'll be in the upper 170s before we know it, that would set off a 2 to 3 month buy signal into this low 200 area, which I consider a 3 to 5 month possibility anyway, above 167.19. So I'll take you back to the day itself. 172.14 is your session containment, able to contain daily buying pressures. Once tested, we can fall back to 167.19 within 3 to 5 days. Closing above 172.14, no good reason to be short Apple over the weekend if your time horizon, well, I don't care what the time horizon is, because we've just came off of long-term support, but especially if your time horizon is 3 to 5 days out to 2 to 3 weeks, if we close above 172.14, I do anticipate this 178.50 to 182.53 area. For you short-term options traders, if we close above 172.14, you might reach for 179 strike out of the money calls that don't expire for at least a month, but not until we close above 172.14, because until then, we are free to continue testing 167.19. And if by chance we close today not only below 167.19, but at or below 165.52, which is the 1% downside threshold below 167.19. I added the 1% years ago on line studies that are 6 months and beyond because it provides a much greater degree of reliability with respect to long-term sell signals. So if we close today, and we could, we're only a few points off of 165.52. If we close at or below 165.52, then next week, I would anticipate this 161.88 to 163.29 region. This is also a weekly chart. I've been mentioning this scenario where we close below 167.19, fall into the very low 160s, bottom out on a week or two basis, rally back to 167.19, perhaps fill this area out for a few weeks before the market then would presumably continue south. And really, once again, it would be a settlement today at 165.52 or lower that I think would set up up a 3 to 5 month sell signal down to 136.59. And so if we close at 165.52 today or lower, if you own any out of the money calls, my suggestion is liquidate them and perhaps reach for 137, 138 strike out of the money puts that don't expire. I would go a year out on this, even though I think it's probably more like a 3 to 5 month play. Until then, as we test 167.19, you could also, once again, reach for 179, for instance, strike out of the money calls that don't expire. This is a 3 to 5 week play. Don't expire for at least a couple of months. If we close above 172.14, you can reach for those expiring options, 179 strike calls that don't expire for at least a month or several weeks anyway. I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to say here. I don't think there's really anything else that needs to be said, so I'm going to leave it at that. Please click like, share, subscribe. Check out wickedstocks.com. We put out 2 stock picks a week. This week, Exact Sciences and Shell Corporation. And we do 2 a week. You can see it all for free by signing up for wickedstocks.com. We offer a 5-day free trial up front. I'll be back Sunday afternoon with Sunday's Apple Report. You have a great weekend.